My name is Doreen Ruto from Daima Initiatives for Peace and Development. And when I came to this room in the morning, I wasn't sure whether it was a pre. And Hashin have done a great job to put this down, but I think past the conference we can put them in a more tangible and thematic format. But there are various good strategies that have come up, and a lot of things that we are at a loss to kind of implement in the next 21 days or so. But again, there is opportunity, there is a space, there is a time. As Celine said, and 1 second can mean a lot. So in terms of our preparedness, in terms of strategies moving forward, I'll read them as random, but maybe as we move forward, as we listen to them, let's find out which ones can we have them as immediate, or what we say before elections, then look at the ones that we can do during elections, and the ones that we can do past elections. Because I was talking to someone and I told the person, I wish the elections this time would be peaceful. And they said, yeah, that's no problem. Kenyans voted very peacefully on 27th December 2007. But what happened 3 days later? And what we did is, we as peace builders, after the Kenyans voted peacefully, we went and sat back. And we did not anticipate the outcome. So I think here our focus will really be on the outcome. People will vote peacefully, yes, but what happens to the outcome in case people are not agreeable with it? So some of the things we've talked about is, and me, I want to focus on the positive aspects of it, coming from a peace building background that focuses on positive psychology and appreciative inquiry. There are a lot of efforts that peace builders have done in the last 5 years and even before. But again, how do we celebrate? How do we begin to celebrate these achievements and the efforts that have been made so far, so that we can focus on the things that are working, things that have worked, and how we can move forward to give us energy for the next phase. So how can we celebrate the achievements that have been made so far by even both the media and the peace building fraternity? And then talk about being optimistic about the coming elections, the language that we use to frame the next elections. If it's a positive language, it will make a big difference. So how can we kind of focus on a discourse that is more optimistic than one that is going to make us feel like we are doomed and the elections are not going to work out? Something came up about giving the youth hope, a vision, and something about the future of this country, so that they can be able to work and look at future days to come, rather than thinking that this is it and this is where we are going to end. Something came up about have joint election monitoring projects, and I think that's the thing we had about Ghana. How can we come up and have joint monitoring projects? And again, here we talked about even having inter-party monitoring sessions, so that people see that even though this party and this party is losing, they are speaking together and they are together talking about monitoring of the elections. Each presidential candidate, how can you ensure that people, the perceptions of people are seen to be giving fair coverage to all the candidates or the aspirants, or as Celine put it. And then talk about how can we then, there was a very good example I picked up from Mr. Bobande, where he said, if election, or rather, if security issues are seen to be reported by people from the government agencies or people from various political affiliations, what again are the perceptions of people? Today, peace builders, I think we have, peace builders and the media have the advantage of the Inspector General. How can we have security reports done by the police rather than people who are affiliated to the government or the county governance, what do you call it, the provincial administration? Because sometimes people tend to think that there is a biasness in the reporting. But how can we remove these biasness so that it is seen to be fair? And then talk about rapid response groups. The mediation groups, again, we talked about those examples. How can political candidates also have a place whereby, not political candidates, the peace builders and the media have places whereby they can meet and come up with a situation analysis, do an ongoing analysis of what's going on. Because realize that after 4th March, should there be a rerun, the political climate will be changing every hour. How can you have a group that's ready to respond and have a situation room where those things are discussed? And then somebody also talked about preparation of parallel tabulation of the results by either the domestic observers and again the story of who tells the story about your elections, about Kenya to the outside observer. So how can we then come up with a domestic reporting system so that it also sets the agenda for the international media or the international team. There was something that was also said about how do peace builders add their voice to the debate. And for a long time, we have struggled with this issue where we say, if there's a presidential debate or if there is any person that calls a very quick press conference to respond to issues, it's never the peace builders. When something happens, the peace builders have not formed a platform where they can come together and add to the public debate or the public discourse. How can that happen? And this can be very key in the next 21 days or so, where you set the agenda and say the peace building fraternity, this is what we stand for, this is what we perceive to be one of the things we need to move forward. And then kind of a very interesting story that came up about hegemonic structures. And being a student of conflict transformation and peace building, in my analysis class, the most focus we talked about is how to deal with hegemonic structures. In Kenya, we are dealing with a situation that has been there for a long time. And as much as this kind of intervention might not be met in the next 21 days, but then how can we begin to work at ways of creating a liberation movement or a social movement? Let's say work towards the 2017 elections. How can we then come together and form a liberation movement where the Kenyans are able to share power, where the people who do not have power are seen to be having that power so that they don't resort to violence? Okay, then there was something that came up about sharing the power between the president and the people, and then how to practice power sharing at every level, that I think was mentioned by Katie. Then come up with something like a peaceometer. And then we've talked a lot about individual contributions and efforts. Again, in my analysis class, in my conflict transformation class, they said any transformation has to begin at individual level. So how do you do that before you go to the family level, societal level, and then impact the global level? And today, Irungu has really focused a lot on our own personal transformation as we go out there. And a few of you have shared your strategies, but you need to encourage that more and make it more practical. Because a lot of people have accused us of doing a lot of analysis, but not creating interventions to address those, the analysis that we do. So after we do the analysis, what action, practical action do we take to ensure that that analysis is implemented? Getting to finish, I won't take much more of your time. Then there's an idea about political parties. How do we engage them maybe in pre-election dialogue and commit maybe the candidates to pre-election, to ensure that they don't participate in violence? Is there a petition that they can sign? Is there something that they can do to ensure that they commit to non-violence? And then create a data center, a third force where people can be able to see that there is a third option in case they lose or in case they have a grievance. And then what's the political environment right now that is informing our elections? We need to do that analysis. And PACT at the moment has involved itself in a process where they're doing a political analysis of all counties. And they're trying to use a political analysis to involve the peace building interventions. And for me, this came as a surprise because for a long time, peace builders will do their work and avoid doing any political analysis. How many of us have even looked at the voter register to know how many people have registered in your constituency, how the voting pattern is going to be, and how can those patterns inform our interventions as peace builders? Because that is, again, the peace building is in the politics and the politics is in the peace building. Yet that is not the thing we have been able to recognize. So we talk about how the political environment will inform our interventions, then talk about the media and the storytellers, who is telling the story, and also look back at the history and the history of a contestation and find out how can we avoid political manipulation, incitement, and begin to find ways of sharing information that is factual and identify things. Then somebody, as we concluded, those suggestions about an African observer mission for Kenya. And then somebody also talked about reaching out to the security forces, peace builders reaching out to the security forces, and also to give them their agenda. So there might be other suggestions that came up on the floor. We'll still gather them together and forward them to NPI But I think as we think through this, let's look at which ones we can do in the next 21 days, which one we can do maybe post-election, and then after that, how we can address the outcome as we move forward. Thank you.